All right. All right. That's it. That is how we start off these live streams, or it has been. We might change it since we're doing more of a news type situation. For part of this, I might just come in, hit you straight with the news. But it is October 8th in the Lord's year 2025, and you're at your home for rock and roll on YouTube, the Thirsty Deer Studio. I'm Gary. This is the Thirsty Deer Studio, man. And we make a lot of music in here. If you've been following along with some of these live streams, you'll know that I'm working on a new track. I just put out a new track about 2 weeks ago, and we got something new cooking. I got most of the music laid down. I've been doing a rough mix on the music because I like to get it right before I start tracking the vocals, just so it fits together and I know it's going to be pretty close to how it's going to sound in the end form. I did like my first rough mix today after tracking drums. So the last live stream, I was doing a bit of mic placement and setting up in here to get ready to play drums on the song. So the way I work in the studio a lot of times is to play guitars first, then some bass, synths, everything melodic usually comes first for me, and then the drums, percussion, and then vocals are usually last. That's just how I work. And a lot of times I'll be writing the vocals while I'm doing the music or after the music's already done, just depending on where my head's at. I like to keep things real. And we've been doing a lot of that music production stuff. We're going to keep doing that, but I've been having some good luck doing the music news because that's something I keep up on. I watch a lot of music stuff because I'm at work, and the way my job is, I work at General Electric. I make dishwashers all day, and I come in here and I rock out at night, and I'm a full-time dad, single dad too, and I have my son all the time, like 100% of the time. So music, I wouldn't say it takes a back burner, but the hours for music are usually later, through the week anyway. But we're going to start doing some news on here. I just posted a couple shorts because the last live stream was the first time I really did the music news, like current events with music, everything from who's touring to lineup changes to movies, music movies to audio gear, guitar gear, all that kind of stuff we talk about on here. And I posted some shorts, like today I posted one just talking about Taylor Swift has a new album out, but you're not going to hear too much about that on here because she gets enough of her own, press without me talking about it, right? It's not really my thing, nothing against Taylor, but that short did pretty well. I think people can relate because that shit is everywhere. So you don't need to hear it from me, but there is some cool shit that I want to talk about with music. First and foremost, y'all have probably heard that Rush is going back out on tour. Without Neil. Neil Peart passed away. Neil Peart. Got to say it right. I always used to say Peart, and I think it is Peart. So Neil passed away a while back, and like one of the legendary drummers in rock, right? How could he ever be replaced? But an R.I.P. Neil. But this chick, Annika Niles, man, she's killer. I'm a drummer. I got drums right there. I just played them on the new song, and this chick, man, she's great. She's a good drummer. She's a kick-ass drummer, and I'm excited, and everybody is too apparently because just today, Rush announced 11 more dates on their touring schedule. So, people are obviously ready for some more Rush. And, I can't wait to hear, what she does with shit like Subdivisions. That's, the kind of Rush when I was little, and I remember hearing Rush for the first time and thinking those drums were badass. It was like Subdivisions. And I know a lot of people get down on that period because that's when Geddy Lee was playing a lot of synths instead of just sticking to the bass, doing a lot of synth stuff. But that's great Rush. I think that's some of the best Rush drums is Subdivisions. I got a little cheat sheet here, so I just wrote down some news let's talk about a little bit of historical stuff too. Um, on this date in 1980, which is a great year because it's the year I was born, Talking Heads released Remain in Light. This was their last album with Brian Eno, that classic Eno production on those great Talking Heads tracks, uh, all those songs, you know, from early Talking Heads like Psycho Killer, and then they're gonna be on the tip of my tongue. But I love the Talking Heads, right? Burning Down the House. Uh, oh, anyway, all the classic songs. There's one off Remain in Light that I absolutely love, and it's on the tip of my tongue, but oh well. So 1980, the year I was born, I didn't realize that that album was put out then. So they were at the end of the Eno thing, like, I consider that early. They still did some more records after that. But that Talking Head shit is great in my opinion. It's like new wave, really took things in a different direction. The whole MTV thing was just getting started in '81, and their videos were some of the coolest videos. They stick in your memory. You know what I mean? Let's see what else we got. Bad Motorfinger from Soundgarden. Chris Cornell, man. I always loved Soundgarden, but I've even grown to appreciate them more now. Cornell's voice is just amazing. The production stuff that they did on those records was great. Bad Motorfinger was a little bit more raw than like what was the next one with Black Hole Sun and all that. One was Down on the Upside was after that one, but oh man, Super Unknown, right? Super Unknown, just great sounds on there. I think Beinhorn did that one. Michael Beinhorn, great sounds on that, man. Like, there's a lot of music production videos on YouTube talking about Michael Beinhorn. It could have been Down on the Upside, or I think it was Super Unknown that he did. I could be wrong, but there's just a lot of great music production on there. A lot of really cool Leslie sounds, great guitar sounds all through those songs. Kim Thale. And Chris, he was writing all those songs, and Chris did a lot of crazy things with tunings. And I always loved Soundgarden too because I play a dual rectifier Trimoverb, which was the amp that was in that camp and used a lot, especially by Kim. Dual rectifier Trimoverb, just a killer amp, man. And it's something that if you know, but not everybody knows. So it's like a regular dual rectifier, but it has reverb and tremolo. It's on every song I produce. All these songs that you hear, like the one on the intro. And we usually do an outro with the song too. Like when we're signing off, I'll play another one of my videos and songs. Like the videos are all tracking here in the studio, just so you can hear where I am with my music production. I'm getting to this a little late. I like to hit it right off. But if you're new to the channel, we're doing music production on these live streams now. I've started doing the music news, so that's what we're in the middle of. So if you're into that kind of stuff, music production, the news, current events in music, on this day in music, all that kind of shit, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, leave me a comment, get in the chat, and tell me where you're at with music. What do you do? Do you play live? Do you gig? Do you record in the studio? Do you write your own tunes? Do you just love music? Do you collect records? All this kind of stuff I'm into, man, and I want to build a community here. And so get in the chat, holler at me. I'll talk about anything you want to talk about. Just don't be an asshole. Let's go on down the list a little bit here. Also, on October 8th, I guess it would probably be 89 or 90, probably 90, Pearl Jam really formed because Eddie Vedder came up to Seattle from his spot in San Diego and met with the guys in the band. Early on, they weren't called Pearl Jam, they were Mookie Blaylock. I don't know if they even had a name when Eddie first came up to visit them, but somehow a tape got in Eddie's hands. I think it was through maybe the Chili Peppers guys, if my memory serves right, on how Eddie got linked up with those guys. And I guess Stone and Jeff sent a tape down to Eddie of some music, and Eddie wrote some lyrics on it, and either sent the tape back up or maybe he just brought it back up when he came on this date in the early '90s. They got together, and the rest is history. I love Pearl Jam. I've seen them 3 or 4 times. 4 times. I've seen them 4 times. I saw them twice in the '90s, once in the like 2005. Yeah. So twice in the '90s, once in 2005, and just a couple years ago I saw them again at Bourbon and Beyond. So that's 4 times I've seen Pearl Jam. Just great. I love Pearl Jam. My bands, like the bands that really influenced me, besides the old classic shit like the Stones, Zeppelin, all that stuff, was the bands that, were early '90s. A lot of people would say grunge, but not all of it was that type of music. That's just the definition that people like to hang on things, but it was just rock and roll. So STP, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, who we've talked about on this podcast already, Pearl Jam, those are the big ones, right? Those are the big ones. And then there's other little bands too, like Candlebox was great. Live was great. Just a whole lot of bands around that time, but a little bit later, Days of the New. Days of the New is a band that has connections to around here in that first Days of the New record with Touch, Peel, and Stand, all that kind of shit on it. The Shelf in the Room, those songs, that was a great record, man. That was a little bit later than, after Nirvana and STP and all those guys, but it was the same type of just kick-ass rock and roll. And I dig it, They're from right up the road. I know a lot of people that's had some kind of affiliation with that band, and then I think they later evolved into Tantric. So what else is up in the music news? Ozzy. So R.I.P. Ozzy again. It's like every time I talk about something with music news, it's like I have to say rest in peace, because all these people were very influential in just me wanting to play music and wanting to talk about music and loving music. And now a lot of them are moving on to the next place, But Ozzy, the family, is doing a documentary. It's called No Escape from Now. And so it's, and possibly even a record and a documentary, or a book and a documentary. Who knows? There's probably a lot of music in the vault from Ozzy too that hasn't seen the light of day yet, so I wouldn't be surprised. But apparently this book and documentary are going to be on Ozzy's struggles. A lot of musicians have these struggles. I've definitely had mine. It's just, I think it's kind of maybe dying off, but it used to be a thing where I think musicians felt like they had to live hard, and, like guitar players, like I love Keith Richards. He's like probably my number one influence on guitar. That Telly right there is because of Keith. I play a lot of open G stuff in my music. And like Keith is so rock and roll. Always was so rock and roll. It's like that is a place to shoot for, with authenticity and living it, walking it like you talk it, and all that. And I feel like a lot of musicians feel like they have to be in that place and have to do those types of things, or it used to be like that. I don't know if it's still that way. It just seems different now. Like the paying your dues and all that is different now. Like, you used to have to really do that shit, and now it's like you're doing it in a different way. Like you can play music, put music out for a long time, and nobody ever see it, and then other people can do one thing and everybody sees it. And sometimes the one thing that this person does that everybody sees isn't on a level that's any greater than the people that are struggling and just nobody sees it, you know. So it's weird like that, but it used to be a thing where you had to pay your dues um, on the road, you know, uh, grinding it out, making music in a van and going places and printing tapes or how whatever, you know, the situation was. It was a different way to climb the ranks, and a record deal always had to be involved if you were going to get any kind of real distribution and get your music heard, and that's all changed as well. I've got 11 songs out just since the beginning of 2024 because I work hard in this studio and I don't put anything out unless it sounds great. When I get it to that point, if I don't scrap projects, they go up. If they're where I want them to be, and people just didn't have that chance. So I feel like the whole scene, there isn't really a scene anymore, you know, not that I see, and it's kind of sad, you know. But it's in another way, it's great because if you're like me and can't do it 24/7, you can only do it maybe 5/7, you know, 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. Then you know, there's you can still, if you work hard and make, if you're efficient with your time with those hours that you can do it, and learn to do things right, you can put stuff out and you know, let the chips fall where they may, right? And it's just a whole different thing. Let's talk about on the last podcast I was talking about McCartney, because McCartney's just amazing. I posted his set list from the first date of his new tour. So Paul's on tour. He was just in Vegas a couple days ago, which is like amazing. And this set list, man, it's like every song is was a hit. Most of them were number ones. And when I was talking about this, I didn't. I said I know Paul's over 80, but I don't know his age, so I'm gonna correct that and say that Paul is 83, and it's just fucking amazing that he can do this thing and has all those songs and all those songs he did with the Beatles and all those songs he did with Wings, and it's just epic, you know, as epic as it ever was. And it just goes to show that there's no expiration date on rock and roll as well, you know. I do have the guitar plugged in, ready to go. We might do that. You know, I just wrote a few things that I've been seeing in the news down, so we'd have that to talk about because I really want to kind of focus this on news and see how it rolls, because I think people are interested in the news maybe sometimes more than hearing music from some guy they don't know yet. You know, it takes a while to integrate that into people's you know, into people's lives. You know, uh, you know, a lot of times the first time we hear something by an artist, we might not like it. I've had a lot of music like that, but after I listen to it about 10 times, it's like, that's a great song. And, you know, people don't get that chance if they're scrolling, and if they do click on your video one time, you know, they don't know what to think about it because it hasn't had time to settle, and everybody's so ADD, ADHD that it's just on to the next thing. And if they do listen to something you do or watch like this podcast or this live stream, they'll click on for 10 or 15 minutes and be off again. You know, that's why I encourage people to subscribe to the channel, check out what I'm doing, because I'm working hard in this motherfucker. You know, I'm going hard at it. Playing music. I play all these things. There's a bass over there. There's another amp over there, a 67, a vintage 1967 twin reverb. That thing's killer. That's the Beatles amp. If you've watched the Beatles Get Back, George and John were both playing a 67 twin, Jerp Edge twin. and you play that thing clean with no pedals, which I don't always do. A lot of times there's pedals going into it because I make crunchy music. But today I was just playing it clean, and it sounds like the Beatles, man. It's got one JBL in it. It's killer. And over on this side's a dual rectifier. Over here, right over here, I have a, Poly D synthesizer, which is like a mini Moog, but it's the Behringer version because I'm not a good enough keys player to spend $5,000 on a real Moog, but this one does the thing. Everybody says it's great, and I've found it to be great. I don't know about all the Behringer gear. Like, I don't know if I would put Behringer, like their 1073 clones in there. I have a BAE 1073. That's like a real Neve, just a new real Neve. I'm not sure that the Behringer would hold up with that, but on this synthesizer, man, it's really great. So if you're wanting to dig into analog synths and you like they do a bunch of the classic synthesizers. I wanted to start, at square one with like the mini Moog sound. And it's not, it's like paraphonic, they call it. So it's the way the oscillators work. You don't have individual, like 4 individual oscillators. It's just splitting them. I don't know exactly how it works. I used to know, and now I just play the damn thing. On Music Gear, since we've leaned that direction, I also mentioned this on the last live stream because it's a cool piece of audio gear that I would like to have 2 channels of in my studio, but there's great SSL emulations and plugins. And SSL isn't really like all that transformer saturation and stuff. That's not what you're getting as much with SSL stuff. But I would still love to have these pieces of gear. It's this new Revival channel strip, right? Which is like based on a SSL 4000G console, big console. And if you use the plugins on your music, when you're making music, SSL has a plugin, like channel strip plugin or console strip plugin. And Waves has one. I use the Waves one a lot. Plugin Alliance, I'm pretty sure, has one. I know they do. I think they have even the J and the G. I know they have the E, Series E bus compressor, like the, or it might be a B for the one at the big studio, Townhouse Studio. I think that's a B. It's a little more crunchy. It does have some transformers in it. I love all those companies. Plugin Alliance makes great plugins. I use their Lindell 80 series, which is a Neve. I keep it on 1084 mode, but it's 1073 or 1084. You got the Neve compressor, and you got like the, I guess it's 33609 compressor in that, and then you have the line amp and even a gate and expander on there. And the Lindell 80 series one's really cool because it has a unity switch, so you can crank that input gain way up and crank up the total harmonic distortion, the THD knob, to where you want it, and really get that thing crunchy. And then just hit that unity before you start pumping up the input gain, and it'll take down the output gain by the same ratio as you're pumping it up. So you're just getting that input transformer, and it's a cool sound. So if you're looking for a good Neve emulation, try that Lindell 80 series. But I've got off the topic of this Revival channel strip. So what you get in the Revival channel strip is a mic preamp, a pretty clean mic preamp, which that's not really, the draw for me with this. You also get an SSL mono compressor. You get 2 of them. I think it's possible to link them. So you can have like a stereo compressor. It's probably a little different than like the bus compressor, but I would say pretty similar. And then you get EQ, because SSLs had EQ and compression on every channel in the old vintage consoles. Killer. You also get a de-esser, which you could do de-essing on the vintage consoles, but you had to do it with the compression and the EQ. This has an actual separate piece of the module, is a de-esser. I just zoomed in on me because I went like this. Let's zoom back out. And then you have a gate and expander. There's I think another piece to the puzzle too. Probably a mix knob, different things you have on this. It's got so much on it, man. It's a great mixing tool. It's something I would use more for mixing, because I mix mostly in the box, but I do come out through a stereo pair of mic preamps. These are the Abbey Road Chandler mic preamps in my rack, and I come out, every mix comes out through those preamps and then back into the DAW to get that color, that harmonic saturation that makes the music sound great. It really, if you have a kick-ass track and you want it to sound better, run it out through a pair of mic preamps with transformers like Neves, or like BAE, like I also have in the rack, or Chandler. There's so many, different mic preamps with different flavors of color. API, Undertone Audio is great. Eric Valentine. If you don't know about Eric Valentine's channel, you got to check it out. He also has this Audionaut Institute. It's his website, and he used to just put his videos up on YouTube, and then he started this Audionaut Institute, and it's very cheap. It's like $1 a video or $2 a video. And then he still puts stuff on YouTube, and if he puts out a new cool video on the Audionaut thing, he'll post a little 5-minute video telling what it's about, what's going on, and go on over there and watch it, just so the people that have been loyal YouTube followers don't miss that. And Eric Valentine, man, he's one of the geniuses at this. He gets so into it. Like, I do this thing, I kind of featured it on one of the live streams, and I'm actually in the process of doing it right now. I was gonna play you this mix tonight too, but I think I'm gonna hold off on that because I made my first rough mix, and I've got the drums up, I've got the levels where I want them. I had a little bit too much reverb on this mix, and it's weird because it's not too much reverb throughout the whole thing. Most of the time it sounds good with that level of reverb, but there's certain sections of the song where the reverb's hitting too hard, and I've got to narrow it down whether it's the room mics or the drum bus, what reverb I need to, tweak on a little bit on that. But I'm also doing this process where I'm pitching down the tom fills, right, and sometimes the kick drum too. Eric Valentine does this in a unique way because he has a lot of times 3 kick drum mics, and he'll have one, a little farther back off the kick drum, maybe like a FET 47 mic or something like that, picking up that low end, and he'll either delay that mic because it's already delayed a little farther back, and that's really all you need is just a few milliseconds, or he'll manually delay it in the DAW, or you can, if you're all analog, you can do it with a delay line like from Strymon, or even a delay like a Strymon timeline. If you don't have something in your rack, anything that'll delay, really small time, like under 10 milliseconds, and you can use this in a way where the high end of the note hits first, that 7K or 5K, whatever you have hitting on your bass drum. Sometimes it can sound like a basketball, even, like dribbling a basketball, and then have the low end come in just a fraction of a second later, and it gives you this pitch down effect. Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I've been doing it on the past few songs with a Waves plugin called Sound Shifter. And what you have to do on this, if you want to see, go check out my live streams. And I talked at the very beginning of the live stream about pitching down these toms, and I actually walk you through the process of doing it on 3 or 4 of the drum fills in my last song, which that last song, by the way, is called Save Your Dose. So if you go onto any streaming platform, whether it's Apple Music, YouTube Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can stream music, and you type in Thirsty Deer, Save Your Dose, you'll get that song. If you type in Black Ties and Deadlines and Thirsty Deer, you'll get the song that we played on the intro. And then I'll play something else to roll out with tonight. It's Wednesday night. It's hump day. I was off work today. Just personal shit. But it was nice to be off today, actually. I wish I could have got a little more sleep, but I was doing a lot of work in here while my son was still in bed, and I should have really laid back down. But we'll try and catch up a little bit tonight. Maybe hit the bed right after this live stream because I got to get up early for work. But I get so into these songs, man. It's hard for me to get more than 4 or 5 hours of sleep at night because I really like to do this shit for real. You know, I don't want to put out something that sucks. I wouldn't do that. So if it's coming from me, I've put the work in. You know, occasionally I miss something and I hear it later, and I think we all do that. It's like I would have done that differently, but it's not something so bad that you are really aware of it in the mix when you've listened to it 100 times and taken it out to the car 50 times, because I do that. I've got monitors up here. A lot of times I'm tracking in headphones and hearing the mix that way. And then when I actually get to like where I am now, mixing the music, the vocals haven't went on yet, but I'm trying to get a good, really good rough mix, like pretty much the way it's going to be. I'm on the monitors. They're actually on right now, but they're turned down because I was mixing right until I hit go live on this stream. It's just, you have to stay at this shit if you're going to be consistent and if you're going to make good sounds, make good songs, make good music, write good lyrics. You just have to keep doing it. Usually every song that I put out, I've revised the lyrics, and when I say revised, I mean totally rewritten the lyrics, maybe kept one piece. I keep doing that shit, let's leave it. But I've revised them usually at least 3 times on most every song, and that means went through and rewrote the lyrics to the song over 3 times. Just because, and sometimes the lyrics, it's not the lyrics' fault, it's something in the mix, and it's usually, if I would have kept those lyrics and just tweaked with the mix, like my vocal level and my parallel compression, I probably could have kept those second lyrics. But I was hearing something that wasn't feeling right, and maybe it was in the mix, and I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to rewrite it, because sometimes you have to know, you can't be precious about the music. You've got to just keep it moving. And then, when you get some sounds that are, they are great, and you want to ride it out with these sounds and not trash the project, then you have to work with the things that you can change that doesn't really change the flavor of the song. Like, I can change lyrics if I have some killer sounds in the song, or have just a great groove in a song, or a riff that I feel like, is like kick you in the teeth, that kind of riff. You don't want to change that, but you can change the things around that, change the bass part, change the vocals, put some synthesizer pads on it. You can do so much and keep the essence of the song. And these are the things that come with just by doing it. You got to be in the studio working, figuring these things out, learning how to make things work. And that the only way you can get it, you cannot get it from watching YouTube videos alone. You can get some helpful tips, like go watch Eric Valentine's stuff on the Audionaut Institute on YouTube. Go watch that stuff because it's great, and it's gonna definitely take your music up a level. But it alone is not gonna have you producing great music. You just have to be in here doing it. It's just, there's only one way, and that is through. You have to do it. Let's see if I have anything on the news front that I wanted to talk about left. Yeah, that's about it. So, what we might do is let me see if I can get this up, and I might play that for you. Play that the music mix for you, um, but turn down the reverb on the drums and just see how that sounds. So I was doing some tweaks with this right up until we went live. And I think I did just turn down all the reverbs on the drums, so they're going to be really dry. Maybe I left a little bit of verb on. And it's still, raw, but it sounds pretty good too. It definitely needs some work. And there's a lot of edits because, like on, I'll when I play drums, a lot of times the way I work is I'll take the music mix without the drums. I'll do a 2-bus export, which is just making like an MP3 of all the music except the drums, and move that over to another drum bus or drum template. And when I do that, it's to try and cut down the latency. And like this time, I forgot, even though I had all my plugins turned off, I still had my sample rate, or my, I was still at 1024, like mixing my sample rate. So it was still getting latency in there, so I had to do a lot of edits. And it seems like, though, even if I bring that down to 196, because I have all the plugins off and you can do it, I'm not running like a brand new Mac or anything. Matter of fact, I like the workflow of this Windows computer. I do want to go get a new computer very soon, and with more RAM. And but I use all external SSDs. I've got this computer pretty optimized. I can put a lot of tracks in my music. Usually I'm somewhere around 30 tracks, 20, maybe not that many. It depends on what I've got going on with percussion, synthesizers, how much background vocals I'm doing. But I was talking for a while about doing these drums on the last 2 live streams, because I thought I was actually going to do it before I did it, but I was putting some other guitar stuff on there, just little fills, trying to decide what to keep and what to mute, and it took me a little longer. So I did the drums this past Sunday, just a few days ago. I had to do the drums, and then I couldn't really edit because I did them at, it was about noon. I did them. My son was up. Took me long enough to track the drums. I like to get the drums all in one take, but this song, I didn't quantize anything in this song, and I had a couple little pieces that were off, and so I had to go back and edit those guitar parts and bass parts and get those feeling right. And it took me a little while to get the drums tracked, and I did it in 2 sections. And that's all the work I can do then till that night. So I've had a couple nights to just like edit things and basically listen to things, get the feel right. I've had to do a lot of edits just because of mainly latency things. Like, it's interesting when I go back, because I always have the camera running when I'm doing drums. And after I get all the edits done, I can line that up like on these videos you see at the beginning of the podcast, and at the end you see me playing drum fills and whatever. I don't just show a whole video of me playing drums because there's a lot going on. Vocals, guitars, bass, all that gets in the tracking video, little clips, but it's all one steady stream in my video editor, and I don't have to cut anything up at all. But all the edits that I've made in the DAW line up perfectly with just how I played. So it's interesting that if you have good time, it can mess with you sometimes because it's like, damn, these are all way off, but it's not you, it's the computer. So don't get too down on yourself. But I've got this session pulled up. We're just going to listen real quick, mainly because I did most of the news stuff I wanted to do, and I like to do the music production stuff too. So I'm going to show you this session real quick. And I'll put me down in the corner too. Let's see. So this, right now, I've only got one track pulled up there, but I'll show you the drum tracks, how the mics I use. A lot of times I'll use a crotch mic. I was gonna, like, I didn't want to set up another mic because, for one thing, I needed another stand and I didn't have it available. But this was 7 mics on the kit, 2 overheads, 2 room mics, 2 overheads, 2 room mics, kick, snare, and a tom mic. And a lot of times that tom mic I'll use as a crotch mic instead. This time I wanted it on the toms because I wanted to do some fills that featured the toms a little bit more, and I can usually get the crunch I need from the room mics instead of always having to have that crotch mic up. But let's listen to a little bit of this. This is actually, it's got some acoustic guitar. You can see these edits I had to make in the song, and it's just, I recorded to a click, but with none of this was quantized, so there's a lot of edits in here, just little things, and it's a lot of it's the latency thing. I'll be tracking, like I said, in that drum session, with just tracking to a 2-bus mix of the music, like MP3 of the music that I've exported, with all the plugins off, and I still get latency spikes. It's crazy. It's like, I assume it's because I'm connected to the internet and something causes the CPU to spike just a little bit and it gets things off. We can always go back and fix it. But let's listen to this just so you can hear what the drums sound like right now early in the process. I just recorded them Sunday, but let me make sure I turn down those reverbs because they were hitting way too hard when I listened to this first initial mix in the car, and I want to make sure that I don't have that going on. Yeah, I've got a little room bus reverb. Let's turn that down a little bit. Still leave it on a little bit, but turn it down. All right, here we go. So we're gonna stop right there because you're hearing those dropouts, right? It's because I have a lot of plugins going. If I would have known I was gonna play that for you tonight, I would have printed off a mix where it was just that mix and we didn't have all the plugins going. I thought we'd try it anyway, but you can hear the flow of it. Things are in a good spot. Vocals are coming real soon. I just wanted to play you some of that because the past two live streams I've been talking about my drum process. We'd even, done a little bit of mic placement and things. So I just wanted you to hear what the drum sounds are like in this room, and they're really killer. If you're in the chat, if you're on the live stream, hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment in the chat. I'll talk to you. I'll answer any questions. It doesn't have to be about music. We've already went through some music news. I played one of my songs on the intro. That's a thing I always do as of right now. Depending on how much we get, deeper into the news, if this turns into like almost an hour of straight music news, where I'm putting clips up and pictures up and doing all that kind of thing, which it is a thought. If this goes good, I like to stay up on my music news and what's going on with things, and I don't mind sharing that. So if people vibe with that, we might go that direction. And if we do that, I might not play as much of my music in the beginning. Maybe we'll still end the stream with one of my songs, with like the tracking video or whatever of one of my songs that you can actually go stream. But hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment in the chat. I hit one of my earlier streams. I forgot to hit. I didn't even know you needed to do it, where you put the chat replay on, so people can see what happened if they're watching later. See what happened in the chat. I did that on this, and I'm always going to do that from this point on. I didn't even know you needed to do that. Like I said, I've only been streaming, doing the live thing with all the studio gear for about a month and a half. So I'm still working out some bugs. Like, I did one live stream where I hit one of my hotkeys doing something on the computer, and I ended the stream. Luckily, we still had a backup running so I could post it. You just have to get in here and do this shit. So if you're into music, if you do this thing, man, you just got to jump in with both feet sometimes. And that's what I do. That's what I'm good at, and sometimes not so good at, but I do it anyway. And but the music, music, it's taken a long time to get to this place, where sometimes it just feels like magic to me when everything comes together. It's, I grew up in a time where you couldn't record in a studio unless you had a record deal or were rich, because it just wasn't feasible. You could maybe do some little 4-track things with like a Tascam or something, but basically I consider those demos. It's not like you had a rack of compressors and a tape machine, like a 16-track tape machine or a 24-track. That took big money to make things sound like a record, and you had to be an amazing engineer and know how to use all that stuff. Now we can do so much of it in the computer. Like, the stuff that I use in the computer would have cost $1 million easily in the 80s or 90s, and it still wasn't cheap, but it wasn't nothing like that, so we're really blessed. And then just to be able to put out this music, if you can play instruments, like a lot of us can. A lot of us are multi-instrumentalists. If you learn to overdub, you can put everything you need on a song. I'm not the best keys player in the world, but I can come up with some really cool synth pads on my MIDI keyboard or on my Poly D over here, my analog synthesizer. Just because, I know the basics of keyboards and piano and stuff. And, if you know a little bit about music theory, you can make these things, you can make great sounds pretty easily. You just have to get in there and experiment, right? And that's the best things come that way, when you just jump in with both feet. Don't overanalyze. Like a lot of these people on YouTube and other places, they do these gear videos, and that's all they do is the gear videos, and I don't hear any music. Like, some of them I might hear a demo of the gear, and they put it into use that way, but it's like, are you doing other music? Because I don't know, it'll be just an instrumental track. And I very quickly got to a place where I knew instrumental tracks weren't gonna do it for me because it's like half, it's like only having half of what it should be because in my mind, even though there's great instrumental stuff out there, or like Pink Floyd has these long sections of songs that have no lyrics, but somewhere in there there's lyrics. Go listen to Metal, One of These Days on Metal, and there's only like one lyric, like it sounds like a monster. One of these days I'm gonna cut you into little pieces, but it's still a lyric, right? It says something with words that music can't express. And what's great is music can express things a lot of times that you can't say with words. And then words pick up where that left off and say the things that you can't say only with music. So it's like two pieces of a puzzle coming together. And when I was trying to do things more instrumental, I felt very unfulfilled. Like I would have great sounding stuff like this sounds pretty good. I need to go check it out in the car, get the reverbs right, do some more things, but it's basically ready for vocals. I just got to do a little bit of cleanup work in the session, and then start working on vocals. Um, and that was great doing that, but then it's like, this is not, nobody's going to give a shit about this. And they might not give a shit about it with lyrics and singing either, but it's like an incomplete thought if you don't take it the whole way. Is where I got to with it very quickly. Let's see where we're at on time. So it's 9:54. I usually go for an hour on these things. I've been doing 2 or 3 a week. I've been trying to do 3 a week. My last one was Sunday. It's Wednesday. We'll probably do another one Friday or Saturday night. So come back. I'm usually pretty good about posting them. I'm gonna sign off with another song. We're gonna just jump in the computer, pick something out at random. I haven't thought too much about it. I'll play that video for you, and we'll say goodnight. Let me pull me back up. We'll do a little bit of work in this OBS. So if you're unfamiliar, or if you've ever thought about doing live streaming, if you don't want to just do it like from a cell phone or whatever, a good and you have studio gear, or want to try and do it that way like I'm doing here with like a great microphone and rack gear, or not even rack gear, just an interface, 2-channel interface or whatever. OBS is a great platform to use. I know a lot of people use StreamYard. You can connect all your stuff that way. There's a lot of things to work out. Like I had to work out bussing down like if I'm using a mic and a guitar, summing those down to just 2 channels, because you can only go into 2 channels. And luckily I have this outboard mic preamp that will bus 2 inputs down to 1, and then come out of both those inputs. So you're not just like hearing my voice on the right side and guitars on the left. But there's just things like that. And if you just get into it and start working on it, you can get a little mixer and do that. Just take chances. Try jumping in this and doing it, because as musicians, as people that love music, even, we have to wear multiple hats nowadays, because there's so little money in it, and the algorithms are so tough on people. Like it's very hard to get anything heard, and it doesn't really matter if you're in my position. I'm gonna do it regardless. I love to just make this music for me, but it would be nice to have it heard. So I do a lot of different things. I do these streams, I do long form videos, I make the music, I put it on streaming. If I could go play live, if I wasn't raising my little boy and had him in the back room, in the bedroom, sleep right now, I might be playing live. But out of the 2 of those things, I'm much happier being a dad than I am playing live. So I can still make my music this way and have my cake and eat it too. But let me close this session, and then we'll play a song to roll out on. Okay. And this song will have a video too. All of them do. I just always make a a video, like a tracking video when I make my music. Let me pick one. There's a lot of songs here. Let's see. Let's do this one. And good night. Come back to the next live stream. I'll post it. I'll try and post a reminder. I usually always do on YouTube or on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. And here's some music.